The Warrior Diet. Switch on your biological powerhouse for high energy, explosive strength, and a leaner, harder body. By Ori Hofmekler. Narrated by R.C. Bray. Copyright 2003-2007 by Ori Hofmekler. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with North Atlantic Books and was produced in the year 2013 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Publisher's note. Figures, illustrations, and recipes in this audiobook appear in a printable PDF, which has been included on the first audio and MP3 CD. If you downloaded this audiobook in a digital format, please visit our website at www.tantor.com and type Warrior Diet into the search box. Follow the link to the books page, then click on PDF Extra 1. When prompted, enter the access code NUTRITION to access these materials. Forward. By Harvey Diamond, author of Fit for Life. I met Ori Hofmekler a couple of years ago in a Japanese restaurant. It stunned me how much he ate that night. I had never seen anyone so lean eat like that. At the time, he was editor-in-chief of Mind and Muscle Power magazine. I had known of Ori's art for quite a while. His political, satirical paintings always struck me as unique, bold, and thought-provoking. They are often very funny. His images have stuck in my mind for years. To quote the late great Joseph Heller, author of Catch-22 and numerous other classics, Ori Hofmekler is a painter of great merit with tremendous wit, intelligence, and imagination. He is better at satirical political art than any other artist I know of at this time. His work deserves to be much better known and more widely enjoyed and treasured. Breaking taboos, exposing lies, and punching holes in political balloons are all essential qualities for strong, effective satire. Real satire makes us laugh every time we're shown the naked, and often ugly, truth. The Warrior Diet isn't satirical art, but the uncompromising integrity of its creator is evidenced here as well. This book is about the art of raw living. I find the concept of the Warrior Diet unique, and although it's quite controversial, I believe it will create a revolution in people's lives. The Warrior Diet triggers and unleashes primal instincts within us, many of which have been inhibited or dulled. It endorses virtues such as feeling a sense of freedom, alertness, and possessing optimum mental and physical strength. It also redefines what it means to be a warrior, to be tough, and to be romantic. In other words, this isn't just a diet. It's a way of life, a renaissance of the spirit of raw living. Ori and I share a similar vision. We both believe that detoxification activates a natural self-healing process and should therefore be a top priority. We both believe that there is a wisdom deep within us all that can guide us to live better, healthier lives. We both agree that consuming live, raw foods and live enzymes is essential for your health, and it affects the way you feel. While we naturally have our differences, they do not detract in any way from the overall effectiveness of Ori's approach. Besides, all you have to do is meet Ori, and you will quickly see that the man is definitely onto something. While reading Ori's The Warrior Diet, I realized that it all makes sense. Concepts such as the warrior cycle, the energy cycle, and his explanation of the interplay between materialism and dematerialism shed new light on how we operate around the circadian clock. Time is an essential factor in the Warrior Diet. Ori calls this the lost dimension, since the concept of time and cycles doesn't play an important role in most other diets. My original Fit for Life book was based on the circadian clock. Unleashing the power of your instincts is a refrain that appears throughout the book. Ori is at his fascinating best when discussing our human primal instincts, be it the hunter-predator instinct versus the scavenger instinct, the instincts to survive and multiply, or the romantic instinct. Ori demonstrates how each instinct connects to the other and how they all relate to the warrior instinct. This book is akin to a new manifesto. It covers all aspects of life, including the instinctual connection between food and sex, a connection that penetrates to the core of human existence. Beyond all the unique and intriguing philosophy, vision, and ideas set forth, there is a very clearly defined diet here that I find to be most effective. Lessons from History explains how the warrior diet is based on the old traditions of ancient warriors, yet it's been updated to be effective for the modern world. It's designed to allow for creativity and individuality, so you can follow its principles in your own unique way. I find this diet to be as effective for women as it is for men, in spite of all the macho references. As a final note, I believe strongly in what you see is what you get. Ori is living proof that the warrior diet works. Foreword by Udo Erasmus, author of Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. The Warrior Diet is an unusual book. It is a book without measurements, but with feeling. A book that encourages you to break rules to find passion. A book not written by academics who analyze everything, but by someone who trusts life and questions stupidity and encourages you to do the same. This alone is reason to listen to the Warrior Diet. Something in you already knows a lot about how you should live. Find and listen to and trust that instinct, author Ori Hofmekler tells you. Experts have a nasty tendency to make what's natural and simple more complicated. They make their living by collecting rent on the insecurity they create by undermining your common sense. To do that, they snow you with big words. In that regard, luckily for you, Ori is not an expert. He encourages you to live by an inner wisdom born of 3.5 billion years of development of creatures made from food and for activity, survival, reproduction, discovery, and joy. You are endowed with a genetic program that knows how to build a healthy body. Do not poison that program with toxic synthetic man-made molecules that have never been present in nature. Provide it with the building blocks it needs to build that body. How do you do that? Without getting technical, Ori encourages you to get there through interesting information, through tasty recipes for health, through exercise, through lifestyle, through ways of thinking, and through calling the sleeping warrior within you to awaken. Some of my favorite topics. Ori's description of the daily sympathetic-parasympathetic rhythm. Light food during the day when energy goes to external pursuits. The big meal in the evening. Relaxation with friends when the day's work is done. I love the simple logic of it, and it works in practice. Do big meals during the day make you feel lazy? Does light food during waking hours keep you from getting tired while you need alertness for work? Does eating when you're hungry make food taste better? While you listen, ask yourself such questions. The warrior instinct. Whatever you call it, this instinct within us is more reliable than thousands of half-baked rules imposed by half-alive, double-blind theoreticians. Rules serve the need to control, but most are out of line with your need for freedom to discover the truths of your own life. Your life is a warrior's path. Whether it is to hunt food, protect your family, village, or country, or to conquer lies and establish truth, the full life has always been a warrior's life. The warrior's life involves goals. It has commitment. There is passion. It is heartfelt. It is conscious. You use your creativity. You question and you build. A warrior's life gives expression to the basic inbuilt striving to get better. Its confidence comes not from memorizing, but from doing, observing, examining, arguing, learning, and improving. It is not 9 to 5, but goes an extra mile or an extra hour, inspired to accomplish goals because they are worthwhile. Romanticism. It is much more than a way to get other people to satisfy your sexual urges. It includes that, but also all that you do with passion and care for life. Rare in books about foods, there is wisdom in the chapters of the warrior diet. Technicians write most food books, and Ori knows the techniques, but he shows you a possibility, a platform for living your life as well. Ori's style is easygoing. His sense of history is interesting. His psychology is common sense. His stories are simple and they flow. He is flexible and learns from all his activities. He does not judge. Ori talks about food, about ambiance, about activity, exercise, about friendship, about lifestyle, about romanticism, and he provides some great recipes. The Warrior Diet is a book that talks to all of you, the whole person hidden inside. Listen to the book. Think about what he says. Try it. Find out how it works for you. Argue with him if you want, and discover more of who you are. Author's Preface. I've been practicing the warrior diet on and off for many years. During this time, I've discovered that being on the warrior diet has made me more energetic, alert, instinctive, ambitious, and in control than those times when I have been off the diet. My metabolism has accelerated to the point that I find it difficult to keep my weight from dropping. I'm naturally lean. I don't count calories, and I eat as much as I want of all the food groups: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. When sitting at dinner with friends or family, I used to apologize in advance for the amount of food that I consume. A few still think that something must be wrong with me, but by now most of my friends and even some family members also practice the warrior diet. I've heard people say, "How can anyone eat so much late at night and still be so lean?" Or, "It's all genetics. He is crazy." Or, "Ori, how come everyone is finished and you're still eating?" I've noticed that those who are on weight loss diets usually enjoy watching others who can eat unlimited amounts of food. For them, it's a vicarious experience, a dream come true. Since the Warrior Diet column began running in Mind and Muscle Power magazine, many who have read it, or just heard about it from others, have been trying to jump in, often without enough knowledge or information. I've been blitzed with so many letters and phone calls from people who want advice or guidance that it became impossible to answer everyone. That is why I've written this book. Listening to it should guide you to practice the warrior diet on your own. This is not just a diet, it's a way of life. It involves your body and mind and gives you a sense of freedom, a sense that, in my opinion, many people lack today. I hope you will find this book intriguing enough to try practicing my diet plan. If you do, I believe that you'll notice significant changes in the way you look and feel, and even in the way you think. It may, in short, change your life. Those who want information regarding specific food and supplements will find it in the under-eating phase, overeating phase, and warrior meals and recipes chapters. The historical component of this book, Lessons from History, is limited to basic research that shows how the warrior diet is actually based on a very old tradition, yet is still quite relevant, pertinent, and practical for the 21st century. Life is a struggle. You either win or lose. For a warrior, survival is just not good enough. Warriors want to win. To be a warrior, you don't need a war. All you need is the spirit, which is hidden inside you. This spirit is what I call the warrior instinct. Once unleashed, it will guide you to greater health and your own sense of freedom. And nothing tastes sweeter than freedom. Introduction to the second edition. Since the initial publication of the Warrior Diet in 2002, I have received numerous testimonials with enthusiastic reports on fat loss, increased energy, improvements in health conditions, and increased feelings of well-being. Nonetheless, I've been routinely addressing requests for consultation coming from readers who love the Warrior Diet, but yet have been confused as to how to fully take advantage of its principles and apply them for various needs and lifestyles. I've also learned that some people have misinterpreted the applications of the diet's eating cycle. This revised edition of the Warrior Diet incorporates lots of new information that I hope will clear common misunderstandings and help address different needs. The Warrior Diet principles haven't changed. Nonetheless, a large part of the text was adjusted and re-edited in order to elucidate the various applications of the diet. Overall, the new edition expands in areas that have drawn the most interest. These include topics such as stubborn fat, male potency, female disorders, physical performance, and sport nutrition. Statistically, all current diets virtually fail to help people lose weight or sustain health in the long run. People today are getting more and more skeptical of dieting. The current epidemics of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and sterility bear witness to the fact that something is wrong in the way people are dieting. I believe the Warrior Diet is the right alternative. Based on science, epidemiology, and real-life experience, it provides viable solutions while applying critical elements that are missing in other diets. As controversial as it may appear, the Warrior Diet has been endorsed by health experts, researchers, champion athletes, coaches, military instructors, soldiers, policemen and firemen, as well as men and women of all ages and different ethnic groups. Recent studies, 2003, on intermittent fasting by Dr. Mark Mattson and colleagues at the National Institute on Aging have caught the attention of researchers worldwide as to the awesome biological benefits of feeding cycles, similar to those featured in the warrior diet. There are many speculations as to how humans should eat and live. More studies are needed to clarify these issues. Nonetheless, there is emerging evidence that humans have primarily adapted to better survive on certain feeding cycles, foods, and exercise. Some researchers speculate that the question isn't how beneficial these elements are for our survival, but rather how damaging it would be without them. The warrior diet's goal is to reintroduce and restore the way people are supposed to eat and exercise, and thus help people today live in the way that they're predestined to live. I hope you'll enjoy this book. Ori Hofmekler, 2007. Introduction. I'm about to commit dietary heresy. What I'm about to propose will cause an army of doctors, nutritionists, and self-proclaimed dietary experts to wail and gnash their teeth. They'll call me ignorant. They'll learn about my revolutionary diet plan, one that can create a society of lean, muscular, modern warriors, and they'll smack their foreheads as they dismiss all my theories. No matter. It's always been that way since the dawn of civilization. Whenever something revolutionary is proposed, society is loath to accept it. Picasso dealt with it and eventually won. Einstein grappled with it and came out on top. So did thousands of others throughout history. I'm not putting myself in their class, but regardless, they gave me inspiration. The warrior diet is unlike any other modern diet plan. Every other modern eating plan is based on restraint. You count your calories. You're careful about fat intake. You avoid carbohydrates. They tell you not to overeat or undereat. Well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. The warrior diet is simple, effective, and ultimately instinctual. It involves using the body's innate ability to burn fat and build muscle through the release of natural hormones and other growth factors. It doesn't involve any drugs, and it breaks all the rules. But that's what warriors do. They break the rules and shallow-minded restrictions placed on them by society. Given that this mode of eating is so different from anything you've probably considered, I feel it necessary to offer some background before you learn the simple facts behind the warrior diet. After all, to accept anything merely on faith would be patently unwarrior-like. Ancient warriors versus modern man. About 10,000 years ago, modern man reached his current state of evolution. At that point, his body, his genes, and his instincts pretty much reached their peak. The main thing that's really changed since then is how we now live, in a much more crowded, civilized world. Initially, we had to live by our instincts. Now, they've been all but choked out of us. There's a reason, of course. Following one's natural instincts is often dangerous to society. You can't very well let people go around doing every and anything they please. In other words, in order to control people, you have to control their most primitive instincts or desires. Still, there are those who break rules. They are the true romantics of the world. They are the spiritual warriors, and their actions often change the way we all live. Children start out as such romantics, but this instinct is usually beaten out of them by the time they reach adulthood. Consequently, there are very few modern warriors. Thousands of years ago, these warriors were common. They lived entirely by instincts. In fact, whole societies were made up of warriors. They spent their days defending their lives and their families' lives. They moved from place to place, never stopping long enough to settle down. Generally, they only sat down to eat one meal a day, and that was always at night after the battles had been fought. Consequently, their bodies were lean and hard, and their instincts were honed to perfection. You can even see these body types illustrated in ancient art. If you take a look at examples of Minoan art, the people depicted are lean, muscular, and heroic-looking. So too were the ancient Greeks and Romans. They were nomadic, eating one meal a day. Mostly seasonal fresh food, meats, fish, legumes and whole grains, olive oil and wine. However, if you look a little farther south to Egypt, long revered for their magnificent civilization, you see something altogether different. Much of their art depicts a people very soft, almost feminine. The difference? They weren't nomads. They instead settled down and farmed the land. They had fewer battles to fight. They were a rich society, and consequently, many of its members lived an aristocratic life, eating many meals throughout the day, much of which consisted of refined wheat and other grains, breads, and cakes. The early Roman and Greek art reflected a warrior race. Soon after, though, decadence set in, and they began living much the same way as modern man, with frequent meals, a sedentary life, and dulled instincts. Predictably, they began to look like modern man and suffer the same ailments. Until Nero, there wasn't one emperor who was obese. Clearly, the dietary habits of civilized modern man are very, very different from those of the ancient warrior. Civilized man lives largely off refined grains, eats often, and is reluctant to engage in intense physical pursuits. Contrast that with the warrior who consumed fresh, seasonal, and fermented food, ate sparingly during the day, but filled himself up at night, and toiled during the day. Civilized man has grown fat, and much of his unused muscle has atrophied. He lives by the clock, eating at predetermined times. The warrior, however, remained lean, hard, and muscular, living off his instincts and eating when necessary, or when the workday was done. 1 meal a day. By now, you've probably gotten an inkling of what kind of eating plan I've practiced for years, and the one that's the subject of this book. The gist of the warrior diet is to eat a meal only once a day, preferably at night, and without any restriction of calories or macronutrient content. It involves retraining the body and the mind. If you try it for a few weeks, I maintain that your hunger will diminish during the day, and when you eat at night, you'll know exactly what to eat and how much to eat. Your body may in fact tell you to eat a considerable amount. No matter, listen to it. During the day, you'll likely want to nibble on things. This is okay, as long as your snack consists of fresh vegetables, fruits, and a little protein if desired, and doesn't include carbohydrates like breads or grains. Yes, this runs against current theory. Yes, it runs against modern-day common sense, but there's a body of science to support it. We already know that exercising on an empty stomach supports our sympathetic nervous system and promotes more weight loss than if we had eaten beforehand. This diet guarantees you several hours a day of fat-burning hormones percolating through your body. During these daily hours, your body is at a peak capacity to remove toxins and generate energy while staying alert, resisting fatigue and stress. Long periods of undereating increase protein efficiency. If you refrain from eating large amounts of protein at arbitrary times, your body will become more efficient at recycling proteins, so when you do eat protein, it'll be utilized much more efficiently. Not eating for long periods also improves insulin sensitivity, so when you do eat, your blood sugar doesn't fluctuate wildly, and your body won't store the carbohydrate calories as fat. The list of potential benefits is staggering. Taking in certain types of protein on an empty stomach can increase testosterone levels and growth hormone levels, and you can't do that on a full stomach. Long periods of fasting also allow certain beneficial amino acids to act favorably on the brain. How many conventional diets do that? Naysayers might argue that the body needs large reserves of glycogen to compete in athletic events. This may be true, but the warrior diet trains the body to stretch glycogen reserves so that athletic endurance doesn't become a problem. Others might point out that this type of diet may induce the production of the catabolic hormone cortisol, which may have negative effects on muscle growth and fat deposition. Ordinarily, yes, but this diet is not about water fasting. By ingesting the right nutrients during the under-eating phase, you will be able to block the cortisol effect. Just to make sure we're on the same page, let's recap the essentials of the warrior diet. The main trick is to retrain your body, teach it to become more instinctive. You can do this by avoiding most foods during the day, although I do recommend that you eat vegetables and fruits, mainly as freshly squeezed juices. It's also okay to have a little protein during the day, such as eggs, cheese, yogurt, or high-quality whey. As you get used to eating this way, your cravings should disappear, and once you're done fighting the battles of the day, you can eat as much protein, vegetables, and carbs as you want, even if it means eating the equivalent of 3 meals in one sitting. The Warrior Diet Advantage. Make no mistake about it. This is not a 3-week program or get in shape for summer plan. It is a lifestyle. As you continue to do it, Hunger pangs during the day will likely disappear. Simultaneously, you'll find yourself getting leaner and more muscular. Furthermore, your thoughts should become clearer and more focused. You will, in short, become a warrior. Remember, genetically, we humans are hunter-gatherers, as are predators in the forest. Wild animals, which practice free feeding, stay lean and athletic, but when you put them in captivity, they begin to eat like most modern human beings, non-stop. Their natural instincts wane, and so they eat and eventually die. Most people habitually eat between 3 to 6 small meals per day. Unfortunately, many are not satisfied with these small meals. Additionally, eating meals during the day leaves many people feeling sluggish and exhausted due to uncontrolled hormonal and neurotransmitter changes. On the other hand, when you practice the warrior diet, you can let your hormones and neurotransmitters work for you. In other words, instead of the hormones clashing against the diet, your diet will work in synergy with your hormones. Although it may seem difficult to accept at first, the warrior diet allows you an incredible sense of freedom. Once your natural instincts kick in, you'll want to eat only one large meal per day at night. You'll fully enjoy it and will get even more satisfaction knowing that you can eat to your heart's content. I believe that every time you fulfill an instinct, there's a feeling of intense pleasure, a kind of high. We get this feeling from food, sex, and even after completing a workout. Could it be that the drive to exercise intensely is part of the warrior instinct, and that people are drawn to bodybuilding or other sports because we're so deprived of this instinct in our modern lives? I think so. It's all part of being a warrior. Warrior. A new definition. When I refer to the term warrior, it is to an instinct that is deep within us all, men, women, and children alike, and which can be triggered by practicing the warrior diet. The stubborn fat syndrome. Stubborn fat is a major problem for many people today. Those who suffer from this stubborn fat syndrome know that it's almost impossible to get rid of it, and they realize that even when they lose some body fat through diet and exercise, the fat they lose is not the stubborn fat. That's why it's called stubborn fat. This stubborn fat usually remains around the belly or chest area, making men look soft. On women, it usually hits their hips, butt, and thighs. Stubborn fat is caused by an excess of the female hormone estrogen in both women and men. There is evidence that stubborn fat is a modern man problem due to exposure to estrogenic chemicals in the environment, food, and water. These chemicals affect the body like estrogen, causing fat gain, sterility, and various disorders including cancer. Besides the anti-estrogenic diet, my recent book dedicated to this topic, I'm not aware of any diet that seriously addresses this problem. It isn't a simple issue. Excess estrogen, which increases the size of estrogen-sensitive fat tissues, comes from various foods and chemicals that mimic the effects of the hormone in our body. The result can be metabolic disorders, fat gain, and mortal disease in men, women, and children. One needs to understand what stubborn fat is, what the reasons are for having it, how to avoid it, why it's so hard to burn if you have it, and most importantly, how to remove it. In Chapter 7, I explain how to deal with this syndrome. It's all part of the warrior diet. Some practical advice for utilizing this book. The warrior diet is simple and practical. However, since this book details a lot of information and ideas, it may seem a bit overwhelming at first. While I think it is essential to ultimately listen to the whole book to fully understand all the concepts behind the warrior diet, you don't need to listen to it in its entirety before starting to practice it. For those who want to begin the warrior diet without first breaking their teeth on all that's included, here is my advice. Listen to the introduction to each chapter, as well as my preface and introduction at the beginning of the book. This will give you a clear indication of what it's about. Once you understand the goals and follow the principles of the diet, you'll be able to start practicing it. I believe that shortly after you begin the warrior diet, you'll naturally be driven to learn more and more details because the effects of it may change your life. So, breaking the ice will, in time, come easily. The goals and principles of the two main phases of the diet, undereating and overeating, are at the beginning of their respective chapters. Warrior Meals and Recipes offers some great meals and recipes to prepare. Listening to these chapters should make it easy for anyone to follow the warrior diet.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?